This is Five Places, Los Angeles, a podcast by the LA Forum for Architecture and Urban Design. I'm Emmanuelle Bourrier, and I'm very excited to be interviewing Lizzie Armanto about the 5 places that define Los Angeles for her. Lizzie Armanto is one of the most groundbreaking skaters in skateboard history. She has won over 30 awards, including the first ever gold in the X Games Women's Park competition in 2013. She competed in the Women's Park skateboarding event at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Lizzie is featured as a primary character in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater video game and is one of a small number of skaters, and the only female, to successfully complete Tony Hawk's 360 loop. She was the first female skater to be on the cover of Transworld Skateboarding magazine, in addition to several Thrasher covers. Beyond her awards and achievements, Lizzie's skating style, courage, and sportsmanship are an inspiration to so many. I'm a longtime fan of hers, so I was a little starstruck during our conversation. Although we talked about her 5 LA places, we also chatted about process, risk, and achieving new goals. A quick editorial note, this interview was recorded in December of 2020, when the city was on pandemic lockdown, and before the 6th Street Viaduct was completed. Please check the show notes for skate videos and links to all the places Lizzie references in our conversation. Let's drop in. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just went to PT and stuff, just tuning up and things.
Yeah. Are you training for anything in particular right now?
No, just I don't know, everything's kind of on pause, especially with the virus. Pretty much contests and gatherings are out the window, and as you know, LA's on lockdown right now, and so I'm just keeping it pretty minimal and just trying to not hang out with people just to be safe. It's funny how this year seems to be the year of being thankful for what you have.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily getting everything you want.
Yes, and maybe even reevaluating the things that you want in some ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited to talk to you about LA and to get to know your experience and your viewpoint. So, how long have you lived in LA?
So I've pretty much lived in LA all my life. This year I actually just moved back to LA. I was living in San Diego for the past 4 years. Before that, I still lived in California, but I'd travel a lot in the past 10 years or so. And before that, pretty much my whole life I lived in LA. There was a year where I lived in Washington and a summer where I lived in New Jersey. So I've seen other parts and places. I feel the more that I've left, the more I appreciate where I grew up, just because it's so different. There's no place like it. And I don't know, even just living in San Diego for the past couple of years, it's so different, and it's not that far away. And I was living in Oceanside, and it really feels mellow in comparison. It's just the pace is so much slower. I feel when you're in LA, it's there's always something going on. There's always going to be something open. I mean, maybe not right now because of the way the world is, but there's options. And there's a lot of little corners in LA. You can find, there's just so much culture.
I agree. I feel the same way about it. So were you actually born here?
I was born in Simi Valley, so really close by. And when I was pretty much a toddler, from there on, I lived in LA and in different parts. We moved around a lot growing up. I went to a different elementary school almost every other year, and it was just because of my parents' work, and you get perspective on just different communities, and it's really, I feel it definitely gave me a different perspective than if I would have grown up in the same place. And I don't know, it's just nice because I feel whenever I go to a different part of town, there's something that I know there, just moving around. And some people they just grow up, you can grow up in LA and then never really leave your neighborhood because there's pretty much everything there. When I was in kindergarten, we were, like, living in, like, Van Nuys, I think, and then for a bit, we were, like, living in Sherman Oaks, and then we lived in Glendale, and then we moved to Santa Monica, and that's the place where I, like, lived the longest. I went to, like, middle school and high school there,
Hmm.
and each one of those places is so different from each other, and I'm definitely, like, fortunate that I, like, got some perspective because living in Santa Monica, it's so beautiful, and you don't really I don't know, it's also, like, dirty and, like, there's, like, the not so nice parts of it, but it's still, like, you see the beach every day, and, like, I don't know, there's something about just seeing the ocean that's very, um, grounding,
Yeah.
but it's still a city and chaotic, and, like, there's tourists and, like, I don't know, you just see things, like I remember growing up, like, when we first moved there, there was, like, a lot of homelessness. It's definitely, like, that's not in every community. I mean, there is homelessness probably in every community, but the amount of, like I think there's a big homeless population, or there was in Santa Monica at the time. It's really sad because there's no one really accounting for, like, them in this whole, like, mess of what's going on.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, I'm in the architecture community and there's a lot of discussion around housing and homelessness and trying to find solutions to it. And it's frustrating that we haven't been able to do more
Mhm.
yet because it's a very sad situation.
It is.
You said you moved around a bunch because of your parents' work. So what is it that they do or did?
My parents, they were both electrical engineers, and even when I was younger, I remember my mom working in a recording studio.
Uh-huh.
But, she, like, went from that and then eventually, like, was just an engineer and, like, now she, like, builds out audio, video, studios, theaters, and things.
Very cool. That's so interesting.
It is. It's a hard job, and
Yeah.
it's, behind the scenes, she's, like sets up all that infrastructure, and it's also, like, a male-dominated industry, and so, like, she, like, definitely had to, like, deal with her fair share of struggle to, like,
Hmm.
hold her own.
So, is that something that you two have chatted about, your experiences with being in male-dominated fields?
We haven't had too many, like, in-depth discussions, but I guess I would say my mom's mostly, like, led by example, just been encouraging as I've grown up. She was the one who signed us up for the skate park, and she always made sure that there was art supplies and, like, things around the house to, like, be creative and express yourself.
That's great. When you say us, do you mean you and your sibling, brother
Yeah,
at the
so
skate
I
park?
have a
Yeah.
younger brother, and he's 6 years younger than me, and he's actually the one who wanted to get into skating.
Uh-huh.
My brother wanted to try skateboarding, and then my mom signed us up for our local skate park, and growing up, we were, like, really close, and we're very competitive,
Mhm.
and I know the skate park was that place after school that we could go to that we were pretty much allowed to our own, like, devices, and growing up, I had to watch my younger brother so I could, like, go to the skate park but not have to
Mhm.
fully, like, micromanage or just, like, see what he was doing all the time.
Yeah. And does he still skate?
Yeah, he skates, like, for fun, like,
Yeah.
just to get around. He's not, like, competing or anything.
Right. So, since you were born in LA, what brought your family to LA originally? Like, however many generations ago, who originally came to LA from your family?
So, my mom was born in LA as well, and then I think my grandma, she lived in LA, and I think she was born, but I would have to, like, double check. But it's been, like, a couple generations of, like,
Wow.
us living here. I'm definitely thankful that, like, I grew up where I did, and like I said, just leaving a lot, like, I'm glad I, like, have the perspective that I do on it. Because before I used to just think, yeah, it's normal for there always to be, like, things to do or, like, having so many, like, different influences around you and just, like, cultures.
Yeah.
So, one of, like, my favorite places in LA is, the Cove Skate Park because that's my home skate park, and I just spent a lot of time there, and the time that I spent there is very meaningful and helped shape my identity, and the people that I met there and, like, kinda where it led me was had a huge impact on my life. A lot of the times, like, when you're skating, like, you're influenced by the people around you or, like, what you're watching, and there's definitely something really special about the scene in Santa Monica. There's so much, like, skate history there, just with the birth of transitional skating out of that area and just the people that were around, and
Yeah.
it's just crazy to, like, still hear, like, their stories, and obviously the area's changed so much, but it's always cool to just go around town and then, like, know that, like, this was the area that this happened or that, or
Yeah.
I don't know, even going into Rip City is so special.
Absolutely.
And then the second place that I would say is very LA to me is Galco's Soda Pop Shop in, like, Highland Park or Eagle Rock area. There's this, like, soda pop shop, and when you go in there, it's you time travel to 100 years ago, and, like, there's just, like, rows of sodas, and, like, they play classic music in there, and then it just looks like nothing's changed in there, kinda in a good way. Like, there's places that you go to that just feel like they haven't changed and they're dying, whereas this place feels like you found a pocket in time.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you have a favorite thing to order when you go there?
So, their pastrami sandwiches, there's a little deli in the back, and the pastrami sandwiches are awesome, and there's an obscene amount of sodas to choose from. They also have, like, liquors and spirits, but I always just fill up a cart full of, like, sodas and stuff, and it gives fond memories of just, like, growing up and my dad taking me there, going for, like, a soda.
So you've been going there since you were young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember there was this, like, soda that we used to get from there, and it had these, like, little colored bubbles in it. Like, they're almost like I don't even know what they were. I wanna say, like, the drink was called, like, Atom. It had to do with, like, atoms.
Adams.
Yeah, like, like, everything's made out of like,
Yes.
atoms, but I'm not positive. Like, I think they discontinued it,
I wonder what
but
the atoms were made of.
I don't know. But it was, like, it just like, basically like a soda, and then there was just these little, like, dots in it.
Like boba? Or
Kinda like boba, but, like, smaller, just smaller than a pea.
mhm. Wow.
If anyone hears this and, like, knows what this thing is, like, I would love to know because in my head, it's almost like it doesn't like I made it. It feels like I made it up because I haven't seen it and I don't know what it was called and they stopped making it.
It sounds pretty amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It it was, or just the memory of it is really cool at least.
It almost doesn't matter if it existed or not because you have that great memory of it.
Mhm.
But it would be cool to know if it did.
For my 3rd location, the bridges over the LA River, kinda by
Mm,
downtown, there's something about the architecture and, like, driving over those that is timeless.
mhm.
You just know you're, like, in LA, and you can usually see, like, the skyline of the downtown LA and stuff. You forget that that's a river, like, the LA River, kinda, just
Yeah.
'cause it's all concreted in, but it's still really cool. There's, like, a tunnel you can take under one of the bridges. They film, like, Batman and stuff in it, and the whole thing is such a crazy, like, experience. Like, I would be scared to walk in that tunnel actually just 'cause it's, like,
Yeah.
so grimy and, like, it gets pretty dark and kinda scary, but then it opens into, like, the river.
Have you ever skated by the river?
Not there. I haven't.
It seems like some of it would be kind of skatable, right? Like all the concrete paths that go along the river throughout the city.
I've actually just, like, kick turned on the bank at the same time I was, like, driving down there, but I wouldn't, like it's not like I was sessioning, so to speak. And then another one of my favorite places in LA is the farmer's market,
Mm.
just 'cause the the farmer's market has been there forever, and it's all kinda old and, like, retro, and there's like a bunch of stalls, different food, like you can find like a bunch of different foods in there. And like, I know on like Mardi Gras, there's usually they'll have bluegrass playing and like Cajun restaurant, like, or like little stand, and you can get gumbo and stuff from there. My mom used to take us up every couple of years. It was really cool just being in that zone.
So you've been going there too since you were younger, little.
Younger, but not
Yeah.
like I don't think like since I was like little. Another place that's like really cool and close by. Growing up, my parents used to go there. Is this place El Coyotes, and it's
Uh-huh.
like in Hollywood, and it's a restaurant. And I think they've filmed some movies in there, but it's also just a really classic old restaurant. And I know my parents took me there when I was like 2 weeks old.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, just whenever I go back there, it definitely like reminds me of that. And I used to climb. I remember there'd be like a line to get in, and you'd have to wait for a table. And on the outside, there's like a awning, and there's these poles. And I remember while we're waiting, I would just climb and like swing because there was like a bar across them. I don't know, just because you're waiting, doing nothing. And so I just do that like a monkey. And I don't know, like it was like a jungle gym to me.
Yeah.
And I remember like in the front where you walk in, there's a glass display case, and they had like cheap toys. I remember every so often my parents would like let me get something from there, and it was the biggest, like in my head I was like, yes. Like I don't know, like I used to think it was super cool. And
So all those places that you mentioned, they're kind of all over the city. Is your sense of LA is kind of that broad sense of the spread out city, and you have these kind of favorite places all over? Or is there a part of the city that to you is really just like, oh, like I'm home when I'm there?
yeah, I don't know, I kind of just feel like all of LA, like there's so many pockets and stuff that I don't know, there's not necessarily one specific place. And a lot of it is just the memories I have in certain places, and like the people that make I don't know, the places themselves have something special about them. Like there's like a reason why you go to like a historic building or something. And
Mhm.
it's even funny just how like in America, like we're like, oh my god, this building is 100 years old. It's historic. And like you go to Europe, and like the building that normal people live in, it's like, oh yeah, this is centuries old, and you're just like,
Right.
what?
Yeah, 100 years is nothing. And you're so fortunate to have been able to travel a lot for competitions, right? I guess you've seen quite a bit of the world already.
I would say so. Like the past years, my schedule's been crazy, just going from like event to event, whether it's contest or demo or all kinds of different things that I've like gone for. But I'm really thankful just to like have those experiences, because it changes your perspective on like how you see your home.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it also makes you realize you don't really need that much to like live.
Hmm.
Like some people live with like a lot less, and that's enough. You can have more meaning in your life, I think, just by spending time and like seeing different things. And also when you go visit another country, like at least with skateboarding, like a lot of times you'll like meet people and like not be able to even talk to them. You won't speak the same language, but
Hmm.
you go to the skate park and you can have a conversation with them through skateboarding, or like, I don't know, share this experience with them, which is really special. Like
Hmm.
it's kind of like that in like music or like dance. You can
Right.
have this unspoken conversation.
Yeah. I can absolutely see how skating would be that. That's beautiful. I love that you talked about the Cove because it's actually been a second home to me. My son skates and I started skating too. And, we just were there almost every day,
Mhm.
before the shutdown anyway. And it's just, I can really identify with what you were saying about how you start making those connections there, and you're, you're making friends with people that you wouldn't otherwise know. And it's because you all love skating, and
Mhm.
it's pretty profound. It's an
It
amazing
is.
experience.
It's also cool because I feel like with skating, it's like it doesn't really matter like where you came from.
Mm.
And like there's just people of all kinds of backgrounds. I don't know, you could be rich, you could be poor, you could be from like anywhere and you could pick up skating and like you'll meet people that are like into the same thing as you, and in the end what you put in is what you get out. It's about like doing the thing and it's not about anything else. Every time you go, you won't be disappointed. It's also very
Yeah.
humbling. You know that at some point you're gonna fall or you have to like learn how to fall so you can like not get hurt. But it it's just funny. Like I feel like you go to the skate park and then like you feel really good and you try to be the person that's showing off and then like you overdo it and then you're just instantly like back down like, okay, I need to like not be like that. Those experiences, they make it so that whatever else you do, like have the same approach, you can like be successful.
Yeah. I identify very strongly with that point because since I've been skating, I feel like it's affected everything else in my life. And I wish I'd started when I was younger.
There's so many lessons that you learn in skating that you can apply to different areas in your life, whether it's just like when you fall, you get back up, or don't have like a big ego because in the end, like it doesn't make your skating any better, or
Mhm.
you know that this didn't work out, so you like try something else, try something else. A lot of the times it's the belief in yourself that you're gonna like figure it out. It also makes you realize you have to like be in tune with where you are physically and mentally. Like, are you gonna do the thing that you like are trying to do? One part can be all in, but if the other part is not all in, like it
Mhm.
doesn't work. And
Mhm.
so with whatever it is you're trying, you have to know that like where you're at and then where like everything else is at. So it's a lot of like scanning, or even just growing up, I would skate to the skate park every day. I would like I know all the cracks from my house to the skate park, and now when I see a sidewalk, I look at it different than I ever would have before. Like you see curbs and you're just like, "Whoa, that looks fun." Whereas
Yeah.
before, yeah, it's just a curb. It's concrete. There's not much more to it, or like a ceiling and it has transition on it and you're just, "Whoa, that's like if we were upside down, like if gravity was opposite, like you could skate the ceiling," and like your imagination goes. And I think that's really important to play.
Yeah. And there's also something about that kind of balance of fear and fun and like holding on and letting go at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
It's trusting yourself
Yeah. Yeah.
to like the fullest extent of if you don't do it, you will, not that you're gonna die, but imagine like you start skating and then you get to the point where you're really pushing your limit and it's like you could do this thing, but you could also fail incredibly bad and it'll be
Mhm.
instant.
Instant damage.
Yeah, or just you know that the cost is, you learn very fast because if you don't do it right, maybe the next week you'll be like in pain all week, or like
Yeah. Yeah. Or unable to skate for a little while.
yeah.
So that reminds me of when you skated the loop, Tony Hawk's 360 loop. After you did that, did you feel like that was so fun? I want to do it again? Or did you feel like, okay, done? Like, I did that.
The loop is the kind of thing where it's has a huge high risk. There is a technique to doing it, but the first time you do it, risk versus reward is pretty high. But then for like to do it again, it's, is it worth it? Like, does this make sense? Personally, I don't know. I don't know if I would do it again. I guess the first time I like ever heard about it, I was kind of like, the
Mhm,
loop. It's yeah, I don't know. It's like just the idea of it is very unsettling to me because
mhm.
there's so much room for error, and
Yeah,
I didn't want to go in with like any ideas. Kind of like I just wanted to see it. First time like you see anything, you want to have an opinion on it, but because of how because it's so scary. I don't know. Like now I can say it's scary, but before I didn't want to tell myself that it was scary, or that like
yeah.
there's like a lot of people that have tried it that are like amazing skateboarders, and it seems like there's not like a qualification to do this thing. Like, if you've done that, you can do this. It's kind of, it's its own
Mhm.
thing. It's in a separate category. I don't know. I just remember, like, I didn't want to say if I wanted to do it or not. I just wanted to see it and then decide in person. And I remember, like, even once I like gave it at least one go and there was a pad, it was basically like the like trampoline places where there's the foam pits. It's kind of like you just skateboard into like a giant foam pit. After that, I was like, okay, that's manageable. And then I just took it one step at a time from then on. Because if I would look at it and be like, can I do it right now? It's just the answer is definitely not. You've never done anything like that before. And you also, that
Mhm.
day, so many things were happening. There was a crowd and there was like announcing. There's like a bunch of people that were trying to try it. And everyone has their like process on how they do something. And some people are like very outward with how they feel. And sometimes it can be contagious in a bad way.
Mhm.
Someone that you know or are close to is like, "Oh my god, I'm so scared." You start thinking like, "I think I'm scared." And that's the
It's
last thing you wanna
contagious.
think. Yeah, especially when it's like, "I wanna do this." And so I remember, like, on that day, only watching and listening to people that, like, had the technique. You just do that and, like, that's the only like, this is the only outcome. Like,
Yeah,
is like, you just make it. Being able to put yourself in that place is there's nothing really like it. It's, like, such a weird process, but with that process, that's how you do, like, kinda impossible things.
I loved what you just said about putting yourself in that place, right? You mean when you're like you're following your own process and you're being very rigorous about it and you're filtering out anything that might distract you and only looking for the inputs that are going to help you to succeed. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, so that's my personal process.
Mhm.
Everyone has their own. Each person, they know themselves the best, and let's say, like, from doing the loop to, like, maybe, like, the first time I dropped in, it's
Mhm.
you ideally wanna approach those the same. It doesn't have to be something big and crazy, it could just be, like, something you've just never done before. What's the mental headspace you need to be in to do this thing, and trying to
Yeah.
figure out how to get there. And I don't know, sometimes just having your close friends around you and cheering you on, or sometimes it's being by yourself, just
Mhm.
figuring it out and like not having anyone's opinion, and for skateboarding at least. But you can also apply it to other things.
Absolutely.
I guess it's finding your
Yeah.
comfort zone. Or I don't know, not saying that my comfort zone is like around a ton of people, but sometimes it's like having like just knowing exactly like how to focus on like what you need to, and not letting your mind go somewhere else.
Right. Right. I do feel like that applies so much to skateboarding and to other things in life because once you figure out like something that seems like it might be impossible or a huge challenge,
Yeah.
if you can find a way to kind of break it down and approach it little by little with your own process,
Mhm.
it's kind of amazing what you can accomplish that you thought might have been impossible.
It is. And it's also doing all those things without like sometimes when you break something down so simply, it seems stupid. Sometimes it's like someone else saying it to you, and then sometimes it's yourself saying it to you. And it's just like knowing how to get past that. When you're trying to learn something new, like you have to like go so far back to something basic and then like relook at that and then apply it to what you're trying. 'Cause sometimes I feel dumb like going back to page 1, like it's even though you're like way past that,
Yeah,
you know?
but there's such a rigor to that. I actually think it's kind of great.
I mean, I think I feel like I hear like a lot of people just being critical about themselves. That like when you do something really simple, it's like people like they think you're doing something that's not hard. But there is like there's importance to doing something that's not hard really good. Or like I like looking at art that's very minimal sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it looks like, oh yeah, like a kid could do that. Like it looks so simple, but then there's something about it that there's so much like character or like style into like one stroke.
Exactly. Yeah. This is reminding me also of yoga. Like if you think about, a yogi who sees as much importance in simple standing pose like Tadasana as they would in doing the most complicated, crazy arm balance. But to them, there's as much discipline in both poses, regardless of the complexity.
It's true.
I'm so happy that we just talked about this because, yeah, I'm going to apply it to my skating.
It's good. It's
Yeah.
sometimes like just having a different perspective on something, like that's just enough to like get you to like the next thing. Like I think it's really interesting how like right now there's like a lot of people on Instagram like showing them learn like the process of them learning how to skate. And I think it's inspiring to other people that you don't have to like only see someone who's really masterful at what they do. Just seeing the process, it's inspiring.
I feel like with skating, there's never an end to it. Like you can always have a next goal. You probably never feel like, okay, I'm done. I've mastered all the tricks I wanted to try, right? There's always more.
I would say that like skating's one of those things you could be like really good at it, but then there's going to be some like portion of it that you're not. I don't know. It's like being an artist, you're never going to be like the best artist in the world. And even if you are like classified as the best artist in the world, there's going to be some portion that like you're not good at that's like not your lane. And I don't know, like one of the things that I love doing is I'll go skate street with Axel, who's my husband, and he's a pro skateboarder. And that isn't like my forte of skating. But by skating that stuff, it helps my like transition skating and like the amount of control that I've learned. Been really cool to apply that to like vert skating and it's also refreshing in the sense that like when you start something that you're not good at, a lot of the times there's little simple easy new things that you've never done before that you can just like learn. I've been skating transition for like 13 years now and there's still so much I don't know how to do and that I want to learn how to do, but sometimes it's fun to like just do something else.
Yeah. I love how the street skating strengthens your transition skating.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's like in writing or something, it'd be the same. Like if you're like a certain type of novel writer and you like are inspired by like different other genres, it's gonna make your thing like better. Just like it's like cross pollination.
Yeah. And you've talked about art a couple of times because you've used it as an example. And you said that when you were young, your mom always made sure you had art supplies around. Are you an artist too?
I mean, I'm definitely artistic. I guess I wouldn't label myself as an artist because I don't spend enough time doing one thing. Like I just like doing, I don't know, I like doing creative things, but I'm kind of like hot potato with them. um, I guess growing up, I always did like arts and crafts. And so like that was my thing. And then when I found skating, I'm like, oh, this is a lot faster. And like you get to like move and do stuff. And so it was really exciting to me. And you can like do it in your own way.
Yeah, it is a lot faster than arts and crafts.
You need a lot of patience, whereas in skateboarding, you do need patience, but then you're always moving, so it doesn't feel like you're staying still. Whereas a lot of the times with art, you're just focusing on like so many like little things or staying in the same place for so long that physically it's challenging. Or mentally like make yourself go crazy because you just
the focus.
Yes.
Yeah, skating, I mean, you're always moving. It's never boring. It's always a thrill.
Even if it's
Yes.
frustrating, it's still a thrill.
And there's never like a time where you're like you like slam like doing like arts and crafts. Like you might mess it up and be
Hopefully
frustrated, but
not.
like I don't know, in skating, if you mess up, it's very like literal, like you instantly like feel you feel it.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite? I mean, you talked about the Cove. Do you have a favorite place to skate in LA? I know that was kind of the defining skate park of your childhood, but
For transition skate parks, I like there's a couple other places outside of LA that I like more.
mhm,
I moved down to San Diego because like the scene was like a lot better down there for transition skating.
mhm,
But then I even remember like before I moved, I was always like, yeah, like why would I ever move out of LA? Like it's so boring everywhere else. But then when I moved down there just to focus on skating, like it was really refreshing and like it was fun just because I had that and it was like enough. But then
yeah.
I don't know, it's just far away enough where I could like drive home or like drive up here and then like kind of get my fix. And the skateboarding side of me, like there's like so many fun parks in San Diego, but then when I'm not skating, like there's so many like fun things up here that I want to do.
So your favorite parks would not actually be in LA? Just pure
No,
parks? No.
just I feel like just culture and like things that I like. I don't know, just like food. Love food. A lot of great food
Mm,
places in LA.
yeah,
So yeah, just like non-skateboarding part of my life. Like
right.
that's why I like love Los Angeles.
Interesting. And is there a place that you've traveled to that's just like somewhere that you absolutely loved or would love to go back or would love to live in?
Yeah, so for culture wise, I love visiting Japan and like there's just so much good food out there.
Yeah,
And then for skating, I really love going to Copenhagen just because there's like some really cool things to skate there and you just the lifestyles most people bike and I just love
yeah,
biking around the city like and I could definitely see myself like living there for like a summer, but then in the winter it seems pretty rough just
mhm.
because I don't know, skating wise, it's like you're just stuck to like what's indoor.
Thank you so much, Lizzie. I really enjoyed chatting with you. I would I would love to meet in person one day. I hope that might be possible. But
Maybe I'll see you at the Cove sometime when it's open again and I'll
yeah.
like
Yeah. Well, meanwhile, we'll be watching, any of your events and cheering you on.
thank you.
Yeah,
Well, good
of
luck with
course.
everything and be safe.
Thank you. You too.
All right,
Thanks so
bye.
much. Bye, Lizzie.
To learn more about Lizzie Armanto and the places she mentions, please check out the show notes. Special thanks to Rick Boideau and Brian Adams for putting me in touch with Lizzie and for making the Cove Skate Park such an amazing place. To hear more stories of the places that define Los Angeles, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also visit us online at fiveplaces.la. Five Places is produced by Annalie Garakani, Quinn Wynn, Janet Zweiman, and me, Emmanuelle Bournier, for the LA Forum for Architecture and Urban Design. We recorded on Chumash, Keech, Tongva, and Mikenakan land. Thank you for listening.